Welcome to another episode of Manhood Academy Podcast. Ladice not in today. Actually miss Ladice because he is the yin to my yang and not in a sexual way. I really appreciate, let me tell you what I appreciate about Ladice. This guy used to be typical emasculated emo kid, minus the tight, nut-hugging jeans. But he had the typical not even happy-go-lucky, I would say emo-go-lucky, just nonchalant, directionless approach to life. No direction, very little insight into the problems that were created by his emasculated state, and just basically, like most guys, he was just trying to pick up women. Met him through, I forget. Anyway, that's a long story. We'll cover that later. But anyway, found this guy in this emasculated state, and we basically started developing the Manhood Academy through many of our various experiences. That'll have to be saved for another podcast. But let me just skip right to his qualifications. Dice is a bright guy, did very well academically, and even as a result of the things he's learned from Manhood Academy, he's jumped in leaps and bounds as far as his intellectual capacity and how he analyzes things now. It's much more competent, it's much more thorough, and he's really the accuracy checker around here. Like for me, I care about the ends, I care about the effects, the results. I'm not necessarily concerned so much with the process, but I want to get to the bottom line. I like looking at the larger concepts, the bigger picture. But what Ladice forces me to do, Dr. Ladice, he looks for accuracy. He looks to see how is that connection made? How did you get from point A to point B? How did you get from square one, this argument to this conclusion? And I have to admit, a lot of times I'm just fucking lazy, and just as much as you guys are dysfunctional, I think we're all learning how to lessen our dysfunction over time and how we approach anything we do. And he's really been like he's like the guy that says, "Hey, I'm keeping you honest. No cheating. I want to know how you got from here to here. I want you to show your work." He's like the teacher saying, "Show your work." So, in that regard, the ebook Principles 101 has really fucking blossomed as a result of his hard work and his accuracy, his thirst for accuracy. I don't know if some of you early attendees of the Manhood Academy have read the articles. The ebook was based on the articles. We had a bunch of articles talking about social interaction, basically like how to pick up chicks, how to talk to guys, how to talk to anybody really. And those articles were very raw. They were just a lot of conclusions, a lot of jumping around. Not so much heavy on the explanation, or the explanations were just very light. They weren't in depth. You couldn't connect A to B to C to D. You could probably go A to D to G to S to Z. I mean, for the most part, they stayed in line, but it was very difficult to follow. And sometimes it was just the opposite was the problem. The articles would be too long, too rambling, too verbose. Basically like a podcast where you can say 1,000 things in a minute, whereas in a sentence you're reading, you don't want to burst your eyeballs reading 5,000 words, what could be said in one small succinct sentence. So in that regard, he's the accuracy guy. He's the fact checker. He's the guy that says, "What does this work? Is this possible? Is this coherent? Does this make sense?" So in that regard, he's very, very helpful, and that's why now I actually trust his judgment. Whereas before, I would view him as just this emasculated emo kid who I wouldn't trust to tie his own shoelaces. But through his development, which I've seen over time, here's really one of the key ways you can tell when a guy has really developed his social skills, when he becomes I can't even say the word, an initiator. Initially, like most emasculated guys with no direction, no father figure, no idea what to do in a social situation, no idea what masculinity is. Is it just being macho? Does it just mean being a tough guy? What does the concept even mean? Most guys still have no idea. But anyway, I would say a big clue to whether or not a guy understands masculinity is whether or not he's a responder or an initiator. And let me tell you the difference here. A responder is someone who can only contribute as much as you give them. They're like you're like a book, and they're like reading you. They're just reading you. You have to constantly provide stimulation. Otherwise, they have nothing to read. They have nothing to respond to. So they're very passive in that regard. So a lot of our conversations would be, one way would be questions, and me answering, questions and me answering. So it's kind of taxing at times. It's like, taking care of a kid or something like that. Back in the day, I used to work like at a summer camp during the summer with some friends, and we'd play with the kids over there and hang out with them. And along those lines, when you're taking care of younger kids, it's a lot of give, and they're on their side. It's take, because they're growing, and that's to be expected. It shouldn't be. They're not adults, so they shouldn't be teaching you. They shouldn't be leading you anywhere. They shouldn't be initiating too much. But with a guy who's grown, a grown adult, you expect more. At least I expect more initiating as far as like something I want in a reciprocal relationship with a friendship or anything like that, romantic or otherwise. In our bromance. I like to have reciprocation. I like to be stimulated. I like somebody to lead to, and for me to follow once in a while. I appreciate that. So Ladice is at that point where he is his own person, and he can now stimulate me with ideas. He can check my work, and I can trust him to do a good job of that. And even to be a foil, to act as the devil's advocate, the guy who goes, hey, does this make sense? This doesn't make sense because X, Y, Z. And he's really helped shape Principles 101 and make it such a competent, awesome work. It's so much better than the previous articles, which were pretty much an embarrassment, but we still have them, and some of them we like to keep around for, posterity or whatnot. But anyway, he's not here today to fact check me, and that's a shame because I have a ton of stuff. I have links galore that I want to cover. I have social interaction issues I want to go over. This podcast is probably going to be all over the place. I'm not sure. At first I wanted to organize it. I wanted to make it, I wanted to make podcasts that talked about social interaction issues specifically. Like there was, if you were just looking to understand the finer points of expectation management, body language, more candid expression, leading an interaction, that type of thing, I'd have podcasts in a certain section. And then I was thinking, well, I just fly off on tangents anyway because social interaction is largely it's entirely holistic, I should say. And, the problems that we always talk about, like feminism, how it inhibits your social interaction, that is intimately tied to the solution. So understanding the problem really helps you understand the solution, how to have competent social interaction. So all these things are really tied together. And so it's hard, especially when you're talking about it, just to stay on one focused topic like you can when you're writing something and you have a piece of paper and it's linear and you got to make sense. So you got to have your 5-paragraph essay format. Everything's got to be to the point, make sense. Like I'll give you an example. It's hard for me when I'm talking about these things just to even stay focused when I'm looking at Audacity right now and I'm seeing the line go across as I'm recording. I can see that my voice level change, and it's just it's distracting enough. But to add on to the fact that I want to have an organized format of podcast, I don't know how it's even possible. So I'm just going to kind of riff here and see if I can kill 2 birds or 3 birds or 100 birds at once. So I'm going to try and address some of the links that I've saved that deal with feminism and social interaction. And then eventually, or as soon as possible, I'd like to get into social interaction competence. So right now, I thought I've been looking at a lot of the links and the types of links I've been saving, and they're really problem-oriented. They're really geared towards addressing the problem, and that's a huge problem, especially with the men's rights movement today. The MRAs, as they're called. I don't know all the terminology and all the acronyms and all the lingo because I'm not involved in men's rights and, formally, so to speak. I guess I am now, but not in a formal capacity. Like I'm not a men's rights network or anything of that nature. But these issues, these social interaction issues, are men's rights issues at their core. And that's why it's, that's also indicative of the problem. People, when they approach life in general and social interaction, men's rights, feminism, they see things in compartments, in sections, in categories. And that is also indicative of their problem understanding social interaction. Social interaction is holistic, and it deals with all these problems are connected to the solutions. Your loss of your civil rights is tied to feminism's removal of your civil rights. And that's tied to why you can't competently interact with girls. You can't attract women. You can't befriend men. You can't have relationships, business, social, or otherwise where you get your expectations met. All these things are intimately tied together in one big ball, heading topic, whatever you want to call it, of social interaction. So it's very difficult to just say, hey, I'm going to separate these into separate categories. And I think that's a fatal flaw that a lot of men's rights activists, feminists, social interaction gurus, what would fall into the heading of the quote-quote seduction community, paid pickup artists, instructors, self-proclaimed pickup artists who teach men how to pick up women, basically. And, you're probably familiar with the phenomenon of watching the pickup artist, and the pickup artist phenomenon was popularized by Style. That's his code name, Style, and Mystery. And these guys basically, were out in the bar and club scene, basically learning how to pick up women and then translate that knowledge to nerds across the world. So there's a lot of issues on the table, and it's a mouthful to swallow, and even to understand is that much more difficult if you don't have direction, I should say. And there's no direction out there, especially in the men's rights movement. So that's why we have so many skewed different philosophies, so many conflicting views on where men should go, how should they fight for the rights, what rights do they need to fight for, what arguments are valid, should women play traditional gender roles, how much should we accept of evolutionary psychology and a bunch of other garbage. So it's just all a big fucking mess. And thankfully Manhood Academy is here to clarify all that nonsense and to codify what needs to be codified and to sweep away all the bullshit, basically. And our policy has always been public scrutiny, because a lot of these guys do things behind doors, fucking covertly. They'll charge you money to be part of their forum, or they'll charge you access to information you should have from birth, really. This is such crucial information. This stuff should be basically taught in schools across America, around the world, really, for any young man who needs to learn about how to be a man, what it means to even be a man. I mean, there's so many fucking ridiculous, cliched, simplistic notions of manhood and what it means to be a man that just really shipwreck guys' progress, that inhibit them from even experiencing masculinity, or even tapping into what it means to be a man, exercising their authority. They have no fucking clue what that means. They assume manhood means, getting a cool haircut, working out, and picking up on chicks. I mean, the views some guys have of masculinity are just fucking embarrassing, to say the least. So somehow, some way, we have the ebook out there, but organizing it in verbal form on a podcast is going to be inherently difficult. But I'm going to try and do my best here and clarify issues. And I think over time, with enough podcasts or enough speaking, all these issues, the beauty of the podcast is that all these issues can be covered in a more thorough way. Like, these issues are like one big diamond, and when you're writing about them, you can cover a facet at a time. But when you're speaking, you can cover more and more and more facets until that diamond becomes more realized, more apparent. And then you can basically have a more thorough understanding because you have a big picture view. And that's really what guys lack today, is a big picture view of social interaction and the problems associated with social interaction. So I'm going to try and cover that. And a major issue I want to cover, and don't forget to remind me, is I'm asking the audience who have no way of contacting me right now, but you guys are somehow supposed to remind me, are responsible for reminding me to cover the haters. We're going to cover the problem, the accusations of feminists, even from men's rights activists. And let's cover that right now. Men's rights activists. The problem with men's rights activists, they're basically emasculated males who are right now whining about the problem. They're passively, aggressively doing what most guys are doing. It's just basically noting inequalities. They're noting wage gap hypocrisies in the wage gap argument, usually waged by feminists, where they claim that, hey, feminists say that women make only 70 cents to a man's dollar, which is true, but they forget to note that men work in the most dangerous jobs, the longest hours, the most demanding professions and occupations. Coal miner, you're not going to find chicks coal mining, scuba diving, construction work, policemen, firemen, anything that requires physical strength. In the most demanding fields, or in the grunt work and the blue collar jobs, a lot of those professions like plumbers, things of that nature, electricians, male-dominated jobs for good reason, because men have that physical prowess that women just don't have naturally. And it's not a knock on women, and we'll get to that. We'll definitely get to the haters. We'll get to their woman-hating, quote-quote, misogynist, all the cliched accusations they throw at us. But the men's rights activists are basically, they'll say, hey, they'll notice, because they're men, they're bright. They notice, hey, there's a hypocritical argument here. These feminists are arguing that they don't make enough. That women don't make as much money as men, but yet they're not intellectually honest. They're fucking cowards, and they don't acknowledge the argument that's presented, the counter-arguments. They don't address any of the counter-arguments that men's rights activists bring up, that, the valid point is that men work longer hours in more demanding jobs. That's why they make that extra 30 to 20 some odd cents that women don't make. But the problem is, as much as men are intellectually bright enough to unmask and discover these hypocrisies in feminist ideology, they're basically powerless to do anything about it because they don't understand social interaction. They don't understand authority. Most feminist arguments are not based around logic. Sorry, I got distracted there. That you don't even know I paused, which is an amazing thing. I just paused, walked away, came back, and here I am again. Okay, so what I was saying is that most feminist arguments aren't even logical to begin with. They're just a bunch of gibberish, emotional, self-serving, self-absorbed arguments. And the fact that men are trying to justify themselves with these logical, brilliantly constructed arguments that basically expose the hypocrisies and the have your cake and eat it too mentality of the feminist entitlement mentality is it's just stunning, because these feminists aren't relying on sound, rational arguments. They're relying on social expectations, the social expectations of a feminist society. As long as feminism as long as the society validates ridiculous arguments, as long as this feminist society validates feminism, it doesn't matter if the arguments are valid or not. And this is what men's rights activists don't fucking understand. The argument is not the issue. It's who's enforcing the argument. That's always the issue. That's number one, always the issue. I was just watching a movie yesterday, Defiance, and it's all about Nazi Germany and the Holocaust and whatnot. And we all pretty much agree that, slaughtering Jews was not a good philosophy, social policy, etc. But how did it come about? How is it justifiable? So obviously somebody had to justify it for it to take place, for Jews to be slaughtered. And the only way that could take place is the ruling party, whoever was in power, had to enforce that philosophy, regardless of whether it was good or bad. They just enforced it. That was the criteria. That was the criteria of whether an argument was valid or not. If might makes right. That basic argument that a lot of people have made. It just holds true in this case. In any case where you can enforce your opinion, that becomes the opinion. That becomes the opinion of your society. That becomes the right opinion, I should say. Quote, quote, right opinion. It may not be intellectually right, but as long as everybody accepts it, as long as everybody follows it, it might as well be right. And that's what men's rights activists simply don't understand. They're like most emasculated men. They just think, oh, if I just come up with a good enough argument, eventually I'm going to convince women. They're out of their fucking minds because they don't understand the social interaction, the social dynamics between men and women. They don't understand that women are not men in gender function. They don't understand that women are not supposed to understand these arguments. We're not supposed to coddle women with intellectual arguments. There was a reason back in the day, many years ago, when they used to excuse women and tell them to go do the dishes or bake a pie or do some fucking knitting or something, get out of the room basically, so the men can intellectually discuss affairs of state, politics, whatnot, things that required brain power. It's not to say that women can't reason and can't think, but that's not their natural capacity. That's not their capacity. Men's capacity is to think, is to lead, is to reason. And you could see this in the way women reason. Women reason according to their own personal self-absorbed sphere of thought. They can't extrapolate arguments to other women, to other men. They can't see. They reason according to their self-interests, and we'll get into it. I'm going to cover web pages and arguments and whatnot that basically expose the way women reason. It's to address their self-interest. It's not to consider all interests, both men and women. So a lot of these feminist arguments end up becoming misandrist, man-hating arguments, and maybe not by intention, but by outcome. That's how they end up. They end up hurting men, and as a result, when you hurt men, what most people don't understand is you hurt women as well. Like I said, social interaction is a holistic sport. It's everyone's involved. Everything affects everything. So if men are in a bad state, women are going to be in a bad state. Like I said, everything affects everything. So these men's rights activists are basically emasculated males who don't see that their passive-aggressive whining, what amounts to just basically whining about the problem, is not going to solve the problem. Neither is giving women more and more justifications for their position. Women are not going to be swayed by justifications. Like most children, women are going to be swayed by pain. And let me explain that statement, because I know on the surface that sounds like a misogynistic, crazy statement. Women are children, blah, blah, blah. It's a common feminist accusation against Manhood Academy. Let me explain that statement. Women are like children in the sense that they are responders, they are reactors to men's initiation. Not that women mirror children exactly to a T, but I'm just using that as an illustration to illustrate aspects of women and how they respond in a social interaction. So largely speaking, women are a reflection of men. The condition of men will be reflected in the condition of women, just as the condition of children is indicative of the condition of the parents. So women today are, especially because of feminism, are in a very childish, self-serving state. They're stuck there, and they can't get out of there by reasoning. Just as a child, when you bring it up and train it, it's not going to learn self-discipline without external discipline applied to him or her. So if you don't spank your child or discipline your child in some way that applies pain, you're not going to have a child who understands the concept of self-discipline, self-pain, the application of pain to themselves. And without self-discipline, there's very little means for a child to change his or her behavior growing up. The same with women. Without applying pain and learning how to exercise authority over women, women's behavior will not change. They'll stay just as dysfunctional as it is now under feminism. And that's a huge mistake that most men's rights activists make. And even the problem is with that is that emasculated males will try to enforce their emasculation on other males. Like we've had a number of men's rights activists criticize us for our teaching about authority, which we'll get into in depth and which we've already covered. If you're in a rush to get to it, just read Principles 101. It covers it more in depth. But we've covered this principle of authority and how it affects how men get their expectations met. Without authority, basically, you don't have the means to get your expectations met or to meet the expectations of those under your authority, those who you're in charge of caring for, which in this case is women. So men's rights activists are basically impotent whiners. They have no way to practically address the problems created by feminism. They can only expose them and teach other men that they exist. But as for addressing them, they have no way to do that, no practical means to do that. Okay. So what is feminism? Feminism is basically an entitlement philosophy. It just says, I deserve. I should have my cake and eat it too. Feminism is basically trying to get rid of the opportunity cost. It wants to have the free lunch. It wants to have everything that men earned without actually doing anything to earn it. And that is the danger and the fatal flaw of feminism. We're going to cover some of the feminist arguments now. Let's just jump right into it. Enough rambling on and on and on for hours. Let's go right to Life Forward. Some fat bitch who's basically writing a blog. I've sifted through some of her pages, and they're like, this chick gained 50 pounds, how to wear fat chick clothing, how to look good in, size 20, dresses. So it's basically a blog that's concerned with weight issues. So, and I think in one of her early entries, it says she struggled with weight issues, and I don't know, she probably came down, she's probably like, some big walrus that came down from 200 to 300 pounds into, a slim 180 or something, and now she's happy and blah, blah, blah. So she's got a new whole life ahead of her. So she's writing this blog. It's called Life: Forward, Body Image and the Gender Gap from a Former Fat Girl as she tries to live life forward. Yeah, you're trendy and deep. We got it. Okay, so this stupid bitch writes a post, Shayna Lee. Ignorant men holding hands and hating feminists. Yes, oh, I got you. All, like, hey y'all. All I thought long and hard about whether to remove the quote Manhood Academy's comment from my post on the wage and gender gap. I guess there's on Twitter, I forget who does it, but somebody blasts out Twitters about recent men's rights issues, and I like to look at those every now and then to kind of get an idea of what to talk about or what to address or what's current in men's rights issues. And I think they blasted something regarding this wage gender gap that feminists like to yap about. And I just somehow, I think I stumbled across her blog here. Anyway, she goes on to say, what will it take to crash the glass ceiling? But after looking at their website, Manhood 101, former incarnation of Manhood Academy, when it became more academic in nature and we wanted to basically make it a course worldwide for men to learn social interaction training. So she goes on and says, I was flattered, I'm using my girl voice here, I was flattered to have received my first hate-ish comments. She's got hate and then ish in parentheses. Comment. Okay, that's how you know you're affecting change. That's how you know you're affecting change, right? When someone puts effort into hating you. Okay, this is your typical stupid bitch. She's assuming that I care enough about a stranger. Okay, I hate feminism in general because of its idiotic ideology. It's self-serving, hypocritical, self-absorbed ideology that hurts men and women. I don't hate you personally. Yes, you're a fucking idiot. Yes, you're a product of feminism. Yes, you're a dumb bitch yapping your mouth. Complete nonsense. But like we always caution men on the site, Manhood Academy is not the He-Man Woman Haters Club. This is not about hating women. This is what stupid bitches like you don't understand. This is why women are not invited to the argument. They're too dumb to comprehend the argument. And the argument is that feminism is the thing that we hate. Feminism, it's self-entitlement philosophy, this self-serving, I deserve everything without having to do anything. I can play your role and my role. I can damage our relationship by trying to be the man while being the woman. I'm the strong, independent woman that can have it all. I want to be considered strong and independent, yet I want to put you in I want you, the guy, to play a sexist role that I'm assigning you. I want you to be the quote gentleman. I want you to pay for my dates, hold open doors, and then I'm going to shame you and say you're not a gentleman. You're a douchebag, a common feminist slander, a douchebag. If you don't do the things that suit my sexist approach, and if you don't do these things, you're not a gentleman. You're not getting sex. You're not getting laid. Oh, but on the other hand, I'm a feminist. I'm strong, independent. I'm just as strong as a man. I'm just as competent as a man. I'll never mind the fact that I never fucking pay for myself on a date. That I expect men to do everything. That I expect men to lift heavy objects for me. I can't basically pull my weight like a man, so we have to lower all the academic standards and all the rigorous police department standards and fireman standards so that other people's lives can be put in jeopardy just so I can feel complete, like I matter. So this is really an approval, like, most women are approval based, and they're basically just looking for approval. So feminism really sues that sweet tooth for approval. It basically says you can have your cake and eat it too. Be as irresponsible as you want. Be as fat as you want. Be as loud as you want. Be as obnoxious as you want. Be as incoherent as you want. We're going to validate you. We're going to approve you. We're going to say you're okay. You're good. So this stupid bitch is because of feminism. This is a prime example of why I hate feminism. Feminism produces bitches and cunts, the more extreme form of bitches. Just like you, who are fucking retarded and let the world know it. And there's an old saying, fool, it was something about a fool, I was going to say the fool and his money are soon parted, but I don't think that's the saying I was looking for. A fool, better to be quiet and thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. This is a prime example right here. This woman is opening her mouth and removing all doubt that she has no fucking clue what she's talking about. So basically, like most women, she's fucking self-absorbed because of feminism. She's a narcissist. She thinks that Manhood Academy was created just so we can attack her. That we're putting effort into hating her. No, you dumb bitch. We hate the philosophy, the self-entitlement philosophy of feminism that removes and hinders the civil rights of men. We're fighting this nonsense, not you personally, not you and your size 20 walrus dresses. She goes on, but largely I am disturbed. An entire site devoted to spreading the hatred of women, suspicion of marriage, and of course, in the same way that Holocaust deniers vehemently spread their lie. Okay, now we're associated with the Holocaust. We're Nazi Germany. Again, another fucking stupid cunt. We're not spreading hatred of women. If we were spreading hatred of women, we wouldn't bother to explain ourselves. We wouldn't bother to give any explanation. We just say you're a fucking stupid cunt with that, and that's it. But we explain why you're a fucking stupid cunt. We go the extra mile to talk about women like you who have been damaged by feminism. And we are careful to make the distinction because there are a lot of guys on our site who mistakenly think we are the He-Men Women Haters Club, just like dumb bitches like you make that common mistake. But unlike women, we're careful to explain our position, to justify our position with rational, logical arguments. That's why we say we separate the behavior from the person. Just like who is it? Alcoholics, they like to say, or not alcoholics. What is it? Bible believers. Love the sinner, hate the sin, love the sinner. That's it. So we love the women, we hate the bitch behavior, and that's exactly what we do. We address bitch behavior. And when we address cunts like you, we address you as a competitor. We address your competitive behavior, not you personally. You personally as a woman. I'll tell you what. If you put me on a desert island with you for 3 months, I will have you trained because I will sap you of approval so fast. There are gonna be no pussified, emasculated guys that you can run to crying, saying that Professor Plum didn't validate you, didn't give you approval for your stupid bitch ideas or your stupid bitch nonsense logic, your chick logic, that you will eventually come around and see that, hey, if you want that approval, you're going to have to step in line. And like I said, it's not you that is the problem. It's not your inherent design that's the problem. It's your behavior. It's who you've been taught by. It's the feminist philosophy that you've adopted. That's the problem. That's the feminist philosophy. Validates your stupid bitch argument. It says, look, you can be an incoherent fucking retard, and I'm going to validate you. I'm going to prove you. Emasculated men will go, hey, this makes perfect sense. I'm too dumb. I'm a product of the American educational system. I'm too dumb to tell you no. I'm too dumb to bring up a rational argument as an emasculated male. So I'm just going to agree with you. I'm going to pat you on the back and say, good job, fatty. But we don't do that here. We're dedicated to exposing feminism, to exposing the problem. Okay, so this bitch goes on. An entire site devoted to spreading hatred of women, suspicion of marriage. Okay, again, this stupid bitch is so mindless, is so thoughtless. The suspicion of marriage. Unlike this dumb bitch, we don't just make arguments based, these superficial arguments like I hate marriage. We don't go, this marriage broke up, or if I was in a marriage and I said I was in a marriage and it broke up, therefore I hate marriage. Marriage is wrong. No. Unlike this dumb bitch, we provide reasons why we believe marriage is wrong. And we even clarify our position and say that it's not the concept of marriage that's wrong. Marriage, actually, we say just the opposite, which this dumb bitch obviously didn't have a reading comprehension above second grade to figure out, that we believe marriage, which is initially based upon the union of a man and a woman, which, this is not going to turn into a gay argument or a homosexual marriage argument. That's not the intention here. But it's based on the union of two people. So a marriage of persons into this union, that is the concept of marriage, or relationship, basically, in layman's terms, is what we're talking about. We definitely support relationships. We support the concept of marriage. What we're fighting against is the feminist laws that accompany marriage and divorce that unfairly benefit women and sacrifice men in their lives. And we point out in many ways, with many rational arguments, how that happens. So for you to just say suspicion of marriage without any explanation, or without even addressing our arguments that support the concept of marriage, which is a relationship, is irresponsible and fucking retarded, to be frank. So you go on here. In the same way that Holocaust denied, now we're Holocaust again. A stupid bitch like this doesn't realize that when she doesn't address the foundation of her argument, she basically is building a leaning tower of Pisa of retarded arguments. This is just Down syndrome on top of retardation, on top of drug abuse, on top of crack whorism, and on top of just utter nonsense, right? So if you have a weak foundation and you try to build on top of that, the taller that building gets. the sooner it's going to come toppling down, the more unstable that building becomes. And that's what you see here. Now, because this stupid bitch doesn't understand that we don't hate the concept of marriage. We only hate the feminist ideology that has infected marriage. That's what we're hating. Now she's gone off the deep end and started to compare this to the Holocaust situation. Do you see how hysterical women are with no leadership, without a male to guide them, to point out the foundation of their errors, where the error in logic is here? This stupid bitch just goes on and rambles and creates basically hysteria for herself. This is just like the news today. It's so feminized. It's just fucking full of hysteria. I was watching what was that documentary, Bowling for Columbine, or I'm not sure. I think it was that. But anyway, Michael Moore is talking about how our media, our TV culture is just so, hysteria based. This is just another product of feminism. It's just everything is the sky is falling. It's a Holocaust, Even in the way some of these bitches address us, they don't realize that they're undermining the First Amendment, which is freedom of speech. What matters to them is how they feel. When we say we hate feminism, they hear we hate women. And not only that, since they're hysterical, stupid bitches with no male direction, they hear we hate women, therefore we're going to hurt women. We're going to commit violence against women. We're going to start hunting women down and chopping them. They just imagine all these fucking hysterical situations. We're going to start raping them. We're going to start pillaging villages and burning houses down and hanging women and stabbing them at, just all kinds of fucking nonsense. So this one chick was just saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe Manhood 101 said that. I fear for you. I fear for my life. I mean, just in these exaggerated fucking hyperbole. It's just a ridiculous result of what happens when you have females controlled by feminism, females influenced by feminist thought, and they have no thoughts of their own. They're basically just led down this path of hysteria. They're like going down the Wizard of Oz, down the yellow brick road towards hysteria. Follow the hysterical brick road, right? Just right down, right towards the Wizard of Oz of hysteria. Nice metaphor. Thank you. Okay, she goes on. I'm barely halfway through the first paragraph. I keep having all these little tangents here, but I just can't get over the retarded nature of her argument. Everything here. It's just like, it's not like one little sentence is off. It's like every fucking thing is off. And again, the reason why everything is off is the foundation of her argument is off. Holocaust. So we're at, let's see here. Suspicion of marriage in the same way that the Holocaust deniers vehemently spread their lies regarding the Holocaust's very existence. So I guess I'm assuming this means we're denying the existence of the problem. That's just my hunch here. Enthusiastically claiming that the wage gap, the difference in compensation paid to men and women for the same job, and the gender gap, the lack of parity in the representation of both genders in high-up positions, can be explained by the lifestyle choices women make. Yeah, let me interpret this dumb bitch into English. I think she's trying to say that the reasons why the wage gap, for instance, exists is because of the lifestyle choices women make. She's trying to say that we're using that as a justification when that's actually included in a government study. It's it's right there for you to see that women, quantitatively speaking, don't work as a whole, don't work as many hours as men. And it's true that they don't work in as demanding jobs as men. You can go out yourself and see this research. You don't need to reference a fucking study. You can go out and see that women aren't dominating firefighting positions or soldiering positions or policeman positions because they don't have the physical capacity to do those jobs. So men have to do these dangerous jobs, work these longer hours. That's why they're paid more. Why doesn't she cite that argument? Why doesn't she cite any of there's a myriad of arguments out there presented already by men's rights activists that cover this. But of course, this dumb bitch is so self-absorbed, so self-serving. The only place she goes to get her arguments are feminismrs.com, right, or feministing.com. No independent sources would she dare research to dare question her feminist ideology. And this is what happens when you're a mindless bitch who is seduced by feminism and taught never to critically examine or to debate any of these issues. And that's another beef I have with these feminists is they're all fucking cowards. They're intellectual, gutless, fucking yellow cowards. They don't have the balls, metaphorically speaking. Well, maybe they do. I mean, there's a lot of crazy cunts out there, but they don't have the balls to debate any of these issues. All they do, we have tons of feminists that visit our site on a weekly basis and leave snippy comments here and there or whatnot, but they don't have the fucking balls to ever present a rational argument to validate our position, to validate their position, I should say, or to justify their position. All they can do is make, passive aggressive, snide, grade school sarcasm remarks. They can't make any valid arguments. They can't debate any of our positions. And as men, we are more than happy. We have the balls to go over to feminist blogs, to feminist sites, and say, hey, we'll gladly, intellectually debate these issues with you. We'll rationally discuss these issues. But even feminists have ways around that. Even women have ways of rationalizing their cowardice. And that's how fucking far they've gone. That's why women aren't invited to argument. They're too fucking stupid to even handle their argument. They say, I already know what feminists are thinking right now. They're thinking I use the F word. Therefore, F word equals no intellectual thought, no capacity to reason. Therefore, we don't even have to address you. We can dismiss your argument. Authoritative fallacies, all kinds of fucking nonsense like that. So, feminism uses these self-serving professional victim speech arguments that they've used for decades to justify their position. And they wouldn't dare debate a man. They wouldn't dare debate why they use douchebag, why they can hypocritically claim that we hate women because we say cunt and bitch, but yet they can say douchebag, loser, deadbeat, pedophile, misogynist, creep, etc. They don't justify their position. I don't see them saying why they're not men haters because they use those terms. But they have no problem pointing fingers. Again, shows that have your cake and eat it too mentality. Feminists want the privilege of hating on men, on bashing men, but they just don't want men to do that. They don't want their feelings hurt. It's a typical you can't stand the heat, get the fuck out of the kitchen. Well, in this case, it's you can't stand the intellectual argument. Women, feminists, get the fuck back in the kitchen, right? Still the first paragraph here. Fuck, we're gonna try and make it through. Okay, so, blah, 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 can be explained by the lifestyle choices women make, because apparently we as a gender have elected to work less hours. Not apparently, you stupid cunt. Yes, it's a fact. It's a fact. It's not apparently, it's a fact. This is what you deny. This is a distortion. How will you even address it? I mean, it's telling that you don't even cite sources. You don't even dare to address any of the counter-arguments. Like on our site, I don't just go, you know what? We just work more hours. That's it. That's the bottom line. That's the argument. No, I examine your argument. To make a critical argument, to make a rational argument, you have to see the other side. You have to see what the other side is claiming, what they're saying. Does your rationalization hold up? Is it really about men hating you as a gender? Or is it about that they work longer hours in more dangerous jobs and they want more compensation as a just, fair result of their work? Which is it? You don't even bother to examine that. You're such a stupid cunt. You just swallow the feminist party line, hook, line, and sinker. Oh, men hate women. Anybody that stands up and says that we're working less hours, we're just self-absorbed and making lifestyle choices, you hate us, obviously. That's their argument. That's the gist of their so-called intellectual argument. But apparently we as a gender have elected to work less hours, so obviously we should be paid less, except no. This is how you can tell a stupid cunt. Except no, right? Bitches like her, cunts like her, basically rely on passive-aggressive sarcasm. No. No. Right? You ever heard that before from a chick? No. Seriously? Seriously? Oh my god? Right? That same type of inflection, that same type of, I'm intellectually superior than you, except I let you know that by saying, no. Right? By using passive-aggressive communication, saying one thing and meaning another, that's supposed to imply your intellectual prowess. Studies that say that women communicate better than men when women typically, are defined by their grade school sarcasm, that proves that women are smarter than men in communication. That's utter bullshit. So she goes on to say, except no. And if my post on the glass ceiling didn't convince you, try this one. Except no. That way, well, hold on a second. This is her logic. This is her logical retort to that argument, that well-constructed argument that, I definitely didn't originate that argument. Many men's rights activists before me have made that argument, but we followed in their footsteps and just basically presented the information to men. Except no. That's our argument. Except no. And if my post on the glass ceiling didn't convince you, try that. Yeah, your fucking first paragraph shows you're a fucking infant. Shows you can't reason your way out of a wet paper bag, and now I'm supposed to be convinced by your next one? How about you fucking should make a competent first paragraph? Then I'll be enticed to go forward. Okay, so, again, Later, this dumb bitch goes on to say, "Oh, you guys are childish. You guys are using four-letter words and calling us names like bitch and cunt." Meanwhile, this hypocritical dumb bitch refers to our site as the ignorant men holding hands. Like she's trying to emasculate us, like we're fags holding hands. We're ignorant men holding hands. Yeah, that's not a juvenile tactic, is it? That's supposed to be an intellectual. You're supposed to represent an intellectual position by trying to emasculate us, by trying to question our sexuality. That we're just frolicking and holding hands. We have no rational arguments at all. That we're just frolicking and holding hands. That's your rational argument. Again, dumb bitch, not invited to the argument. This is a prime example. This chick perfectly epitomizes women today. Not rational thinkers, not in capacity, and certainly not under feminism. I'm refusing to attribute the adjective manhood, which has a connotation of maturity, to this. So manhood has a connotation of maturity. I like how this dumb bitch just out of thin air just pulls connotations, has no explanation for her meaning, for her words. This is a contextual argument. The way she's using manhood is a contextual argument. It's not a connotation argument, you dumb bitch. So anyway, she doesn't make sense anyway. So how she comes up with these terms or where she pulls these terms out of her ass, nobody knows. So we're the men holding hands. We're the somehow her rationalization is instead of manhood, we frolic and hold hands. Tagline: this course, they have the delusion. Now she's quoting us. This course, and she's inserting editorial commentary. They have delusions of educational purpose. Yeah, stupid cunt. Like you've shown educational purpose here. What have you shown? You've shown that you don't know how to construct a rational argument. You've shown that all your references are you've made self-referencing arguments, authoritative fallacies, basically. This is supposed to denote, indicate, show, illustrate your education, an educational purpose. You stupid cunt. This is so sad. This is why retards like you should never have a forum in the first place. Blogs should be illegal for you. Should have to pass like a spelling bee or something to prove your competence before you're even allowed on the computer. Women should have they should have to pass a basic IQ test before they can even turn on a computer. I would ban 90% of the women on the internet just like this. This dumb cunt is indicative of most women on the internet. They don't have an education. It spread hysteria, spread nonsense to other women who don't listen to the argument. They listen to the gender. They're looking at whether this is a woman. Sister, I support you. You're a woman, right? Men at least call other men out on their bullshit, on their ridiculous arguments. They have no problem in shaming each other and saying, hey, this guy's an idiot, right? He presented this argument. It's not rational. Men will at least argue against their own gender. Whereas women, they will rationalize any nonsense as long as it comes from another woman. This is the epitome of, you want to talk about Holocaust situations, this is the epitome of the SS Nazi German mindset. This is party line mentality. Hey, you're a woman, I automatically accept your argument. Welcome to the club. I can't tell you how many times we've been lectured on sites where we point out, women will typically say, hey, you can't call us a bitch. You can't say our argument's bad. That's name calling. When you say our argument's bad, that's name calling. These women are too stupid to understand. You need adjectives. You need descriptive terms to denote what you're to talk about what you're referring to. Describe what you're trying to point out here. The flaws in their logic. This is like saying. This is about as ridiculous as saying it's name calling to say the sky is blue, right? You're calling the sky blue. That's name calling. You're immature. Therefore, I don't have to listen to your argument. This is the reasoning process, if you can call it reasoning. This is the chick logic. This is the mental gymnastics these morons go through to come to their opinion. So, where was I? Lost. Okay. So, she's saying, we highlights the many ways. Oh, wait a second. I can't use my female voice. She's quoting us. This highlights the many ways in which feminism displaces functional gender roles and damages healthy social interaction. Okay. What do they offer? What does this site offer? Okay. Why do they offer this? Sorry. I'm reading phantom words. Okay, so she copies us again, and she adds her fucking brilliant commentary in here. Okay, so we say to retrain women, and we're not talking about like dogs. We're not talking about saying, sit, stay, come here, Fido. That's not what we're referring to when we say retrain women, because obviously we reference training men all the time, so obviously we're not talking about poodle training. Anyway, so we say retrain women. Too many women have been cheated by feminism, right? They have been erroneously taught to compete with men, she's quoting us, and usurp male authority. Shayna, she says, gives her sterling editorial commentary here. Authority? Did I miss the day that was decided? Yeah, you stupid bitch. You did miss that day. It's called making sense. That day was the day that you missed out on. Your sarcastic, stupid bitch commentary references no rational argument, no evidence, nothing. You just put out there, did I miss that day that was decided? Stupid cunts cannot form rational arguments. This is a common problem, and the other common problem, which advocates this type of argumentation tactic, is feminism. Feminists who basically, when a girl speaks up in class, they clap. Yay, girl talk. Yay, she said something. Yay! Right? That validates you stupid bitches making these type of arguments. It doesn't matter if your argument makes sense. It just matters that a woman spoke. Yeah, sister, fight the oppression of man. Fight against logic. Just speak. That's all that's required, and we're going to clap for you. That allows stupid bitches like you to assume this is a confident argument. Did I miss the day that was decided? Double question mark. I love the female punctuation. You always tell it's female punctuation when females think that if you add 15 question marks or 1,000 exclamation points, it's more important, it's more meaningful. Yeah, perfectly epitomizes female argumentation. Okay, so we go on to say this completely neglects the importance of fulfilling different gender functions. Yes, nice statement. Thank you. That's from Manhood Academy. Which are meant to complement, C-O-M-P-L-E-M-E-N-T, which means to work together, to complement, rather than to compete with each other. The genders are meant to complement each other. Our different gender functions fulfill necessities that each gender can't fulfill. Like, I can't have a baby. I need a woman to have a baby. She fulfills a gender function that is necessary to me, just as I fulfill a gender function that's necessary to her. I'm stronger than her. I protect her. I do more work than her. I do harder work, construction, etc., right? Anything that requires male prowess, male ingenuity, I fulfill a function that serves her. She fulfills a function that serves me. And we're mutually, we're in a mutually complementary relation. Does that make sense? Mutually complementary. Let's just say we're in a complementary relationship. How about that? Okay. Rather than compete with each other, men should be in charge of women as a means of caring for female needs, while women should be submissive to men as a means of caring for male needs. Correct. Her commentary. Why do I need someone to be in charge of me? You stupid bitch. All you gotta do, well, you would never understand this because you're too stupid to understand this, but it takes a man to point out your stupidity. So unless you have a man around, you don't realize how many mistakes you're making. Just like I pointed out, I can't even get through the fucking first paragraph of your blog because it's so riddled with mistakes. It's taken me like an hour just to get through your first couple of paragraphs. That's why you need a man in charge of you. What needs do I have that I can't take care of? Again, you stupid cunt. This is so blatantly obvious. Okay, let's say all men just vanish from the planet, right? We vanish from the planet. What do you think would happen to women eventually if you guys just kept going on? You would become extinct, you dumb bitch, because it requires sperm to fertilize an egg to populate the human race. What needs do you have that you can't take care of without a man? What? Are you out of your fucking mind, you retard? Who do you think fucking built the computer you're abusing, I should say, to type out all your stupid, nonsensical ideas? Who do you think built that building you're living in, you fucking moron? You think a woman could construct that building? Fuck you. It's a man who did that. All these innovations, all this technology that you're using, who do you think invented all that, you dumb bitch? A man, not a woman. What needs do you have that you can't take care of yourself? I would love to take women who make this challenge. Let's get rid of all the men on that. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this like a month long or a 6 month long experiment where we just take men, we give them raw materials, throw them on an island, and we take women, give them raw materials, throw them on an island. I should say competent men, not emasculated, pussified manginas like today, but we need some competent men out there. I'd definitely have to be on that island, or at least somebody who understands authority and leadership, and have these men compete with these women and see who society does better after that 6 months. I guarantee you, half the women will be dead from fighting each other. Fourth of them will be, in such poor malnourished condition, they won't know how to, raise up a building or build shelter, protect themselves from the elements, find food, forage, etc. there's going to be so much complaining that they're going to realize it's going to hit them like a ton of bricks what it really means to be strong and independent, like you feminists claim. We'll see what that's really like without a man there to pay for your meals, to take care of you, to do all the dirty work that you think you can do. That's a joke. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that happen. Did I suddenly turn into a mildly retarded child? Did you turn into a mildly retarded child? I'm pretty sure your whole entire blog, your existence pretty much answers that question. Feminism betrays women by teaching them that adopting male functions and becoming equal to men will improve their lives, but it fails to warn them that such a strategy will not only undermine the attractiveness and value of women, but also inhibit men's ability to properly care for women. By teaching women the value of fulfilling functional gender roles and observing healthy gender restrictions, we aim to raise their quality of life. Correct. Her commentary. I seriously think that this guy may be the inspiration for that NCIS episode where that man chained that woman dressed in wedding dresses. What? Okay, so she's trying to compare us to some fucking CIS Miami, some episode that she saw. Of course, she references TV, another brilliant dumb bitch argument. Chicks love to reference imaginary TV shows, imaginary movies to make their point. Fucking retarded. Where a man is chained, a woman dressed in a wedding dresses. What the fuck? Great sense here. So some man has chained a woman down in a wedding dress in a basement, outfitted to look like the 1950s with only the good wife's guide to read. Okay. So obviously she's trying to, mock us, ridicule us, make the analogy that we're the good old boys club. We're just ignorant men who don't know any better. This is another problem with feminism. We've seen so many fucking commercials, we're just inundated with these fucking nonsensical commercials that talk about men being incompetent, men being retards, men not being able to tie their own shoes without the help of a woman. When just the opposite is true. If anything, this woman's blog proves how delusional and fucking retarded women become under the tutelage of feminism. When they're referencing guys today, they're referencing emasculated males with very little education, also a product of feminism. They would not have the mental capacity to figure this out. They like most emasculated men, figure that men are just naturally stupid, naturally Al Bundy, right? They just assume that women are just smart as hell and men just can't figure it out. And men, too emasculated to say no to women, too emasculated to question feminism. They're like slaves. They're like, yes, massa, slavery is right. They don't have the training to even think and question these ridiculous ideas feminists are passing off. And that's the problem. And the beauty of training is that training becomes like a reflex. It eventually develops like a reflexive response in you. So men give an emasculated reflexive approval to all the fucking nonsense that any woman says, regardless of whether it's valid or not. That's the result of feminist training. What men lack is competence training. They lack authority training. They lack the means to get their expectations met, to think critically, to examine things with a critical eye, to see if these things make sense, right? To check principles, to check research, to check evidence, to see whether these arguments are rational or valid. Feminist men, emasculated men just don't have that. Just don't have that ability. They have the capacity. As men, they definitely have the natural capacity, they have the natural tools, they have the mental prowess to do it. But feminist educational system in America and abroad slowly causing men to become retards, if not already. And we'll definitely cover some retarded, emasculated feminist men out there. I think this is long enough. This has been a good hour or so. I don't know how it'll check out when we put the track in the beginning, but this has been another episode of Manhood Academy Podcasting, and we'll try to bring more to you, and we'll try to cover varied topics. Like I said, it's tough to cover everything at once. I eventually want to get to social interaction. I don't want to spend hours complaining, or basically, I wouldn't consider this complaining. I would consider this exposing the problem, because I'm sure that I don't know how all men's rights activists operate, but the majority, when they discuss these problems, they discuss them from a very emasculated point of view, a very whiny, complainy, we can't do anything about this view. When our emphasis at Manhood Academy is all about competence. We want to train young men to become competent, to be able to competently answer feminist arguments, to be able to competently and critically examine any situation they find themselves in, socially and otherwise. And that's the type of training we provide at Manhood Academy. And we teach men how to competently address these arguments and even how to get their expectations met, how to turn stupid bitches like this into functional women. And the great thing is we're going to give you examples of bitches becoming functional women. My own girlfriend is an example of a bitch becoming a more functional woman. And I'll try to interview her in a future podcast, but we will cover that later. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.